sharing. Sometimes it goes live before. It says it's being live streamed. I'm just checking. Hey, happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. Going live from Zoom. So I am saying hi to you all while I make sure that we are actually live in my Facebook group, because it says we're live, but I don't actually see it here. There we go. We are live. And I have a special guest with me, and I want to make sure we can see both of us as well. So I need to change our, I think gallery does it. Katrina, do you want to say hi? I'm doing a very horrible job of introducing you, but just want to say hi to make sure I can see both of us when you talk.
Absolutely. So hello to our Business Besties group. Excited to have an enlightening conversation today, Kim.
Yay, I can see both of us, and I'm very excited for an enlightening conversation as well. Okay, perfect. So we got the tech stuff sorted. So I will say again, a happy Tuesday to the besties and bosses here. And I've got my right hand, my OBM, Katrina, with me, and we're going to talk systems today, and we're going to talk systems to freedom. And I want to preface before we dive into this, because I feel like that's the kind of title that I know past Kim, ex-actress Kim, creative Kim would have seen when she was starting her business and be like, yeah, boo, I don't want to hear about systems. I care about the freedom and the creative part, but boring, blah, that's not how my brain works. And that's exactly why we want to have this conversation, because it turns out that systems are a really, 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 really important part and big part of our freedom and what allows us to have the spaciousness to be creative and to run our businesses. And we talk so much in here about the mindset and the strategy part of business, which is absolutely crucial. But sometimes we almost get wrapped up in that piece and forget about what supports all of that. And it's really tough to have your mindset support you and your strategy support you if you're a hot mess, because your systems are a hot mess. So that is what we're talking about today. Katrina, do you want to give everyone just a little intro into your fabulousness and your background before we dive into all the juicy stuff?
Yeah, so the pertinence, just to give you guys a little context, I also come from the creative side of life. I'm trained as an architect, so all my degrees and initial first career before making a series of pivots was in architecture and in building things for people. But what I've found since getting into entrepreneurship is that sort of the brain, it's very engineering systems focus, is what's been able to create a life now, 4 years of travel as a digital nomad, of being able to really be flexible with my time, living in different time zones, working with people over the globe, doing fun things like having spa days and hot air balloon rides and all the sorts of things happening in the middle of my week, while also taking really great care of clients and really living, I think, the dream for me. That's what my dream looks like, right? I think freedom looks different for everybody, but mine has always been about expansiveness, about time flexibility and location flexibility, and the ability to have more of an abundant lifestyle without the hustle culture, which is what I learned way back in the day. And so I've been sort of living at sort of lifestyle design as sort of the end goal of building a really well-structured business and systemized business, and supporting other entrepreneurs and coaches in doing that as well. And it's fun for me to be able to kind of share behind the scenes, because systems aren't sexy. Nobody's making massive amounts of audience attentiveness to, a systems webinar, generally speaking, but it is the secret sauce to making these things possible. So that's what we want to talk about today.
I mean, I think they are kind of sexy once you figure out what's on the other side of them, but they're not so sexy when you first talk about them. And I just want to affirm, just so everyone knows what we're talking about. And you, I think you bring so much to the table. You completely walk your talk. I know that you both paint and do the creative things, and then also have just such a systems brain where you look and see things in the back end of my business where my brain just wants to melt and cry. So I think you have a really beautiful blend of bringing both. And I know you've also just had you have the coaching background and way of seeing things that way, as well as the strategy and system. So I love getting to have you as my right hand, but just for everyone listening as well, just so they know where we're both coming from.
Yeah, I guess I skipped that part, but I've been in coaching space for 12 years, behind $1 million businesses, done startups to who knows what, and really been behind hundreds of businesses, either on the coaching side or the consulting and operations side. So I've had a chance to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and really kind of have a lot of hands-on learning and lessons from what works, what doesn't, what it looks like when it's done right, and what that creates for you as a business owner. So that's what I get excited about.
And you're super good at it, and you're a great thought partner. Julia says, "Hi, ladies, hopping on for a few to catch this. Hello, nice to have you with us." All right, so let's dive in. So I thought it's a great way to start, because we were talking about kind of the very beginning here, just this idea of like mindset strategy, and like those are almost the things we think we need to feel the freedom. But how do you see systems supporting the mindset side of things, supporting the strategy side of things? Like, why can't we just like mindset our way to feeling freedom in business?
I think again, mindset's super important, and it is absolutely an element to things. But at the end of the day, you also need a business that works. And a business isn't just mindset. A business actually has processes, tasks, things that have to happen, like a whole series of things. It's sort of a machine, right? I think of business as a machine, and like the pieces all have to work together in a sequence for the right outcome to happen. And that you can't mindset your way to that that part of it, right? Like there still needs to be functional pieces. And when you don't have those things in place, that's when you feel reactive, or you feel like the heaviness or the overwhelm, or like where you don't have the space to mentally get creative because then you're solving problems all the time, or recreating the wheel, or getting sucked into the minutia of stuff because it isn't a clean. It feels like a hot mess, right? Hot mess is the opposite of creative freedom and like mental space. And so I think that's for me how I see like systems giving you the space to actually be in your element, is because you're not wasting mental time and energy on figuring stuff out constantly and constantly and constantly. Like that's the drain as an entrepreneur. And we feel like we're always having to figure stuff out, like that's exhausting. It's exhausting. Yeah, we don't need that.
It is exhausting, and it makes me think of like solving the right problem, which Lacey talks so much about. But I think it's just like, as you're saying that, like sometimes we think something's a mindset issue and we're like, how do I just mindset my way through this? When not that mindset doesn't show up sometimes when we don't have systems, but sometimes we don't even realize it's something maybe isn't like we don't have to like dig to the bottom of the barrel, but it's like we actually just practically like need some things in place to support us. Sort of like if you're hangry, you probably don't have a mindset issue. You probably just need some food in your belly, and that kind of solves everything. And I think there's an element here where it's like sometimes just having the right systems and support in place, you like never get to the place of being hangry, and you don't even have to like solve all of these things you think are issues in your mind. Does that feel true as I reflect that back? Because this is from my side of things, but I wonder how it is on your side of things, like having probably a completely different perspective.
No, I love the hangry analogy, because I do think if we have like a weird day, or then our mood shifts, or all of a sudden we're too tired to like dive into the thing, like we think we make ourselves wrong, right? Like that's our first default. When if you zoom out a little bit, like, is there something you could have done to create a bit more space, or to get ahead of the situation, or to change like the experience you're having right now? Like that's where the systems fit. And so these things I look at as symptoms of like, where are there opportunities to give yourself more of that space, or give yourself the room needed to like kind of get back into your groove, or whatever the case may be. Like I think a lot of times if you're asking yourself what's wrong with me, or like why am I this, like also like what situation, what external factors, or what things in my business maybe could we do differently so that I don't end up here, is a different way of looking at it.
So you're leading me to my next question, but I think this is great. So what are the symptoms? Like, how do we know it's a systems thing? It's sort of like, how do we know we're hangry, or how do we know we're actually just like raging and angry about something? Like we have to like know like what the difference is. So how do we know in business if we're hangry and have something going on with systems, or if there's maybe like actually a mindset or a strategy thing to look at?
You know, I think there's no like fixed rule. There's a lot of different areas in your business you can systemize, but I will say some of the things that I see very commonly are, again, feeling really reactive, right? Like feeling like you just can't get out of your inbox. You're always responding to things. You're always just drained, like responding to people, or like in the messaging in the inbox, and in the energy of that. Like that's one thing that I think happens a lot. I think other areas are constant frustration, especially if you have any sort of team or support, when you feel like there's just like missed signals, or it's not working the way, it's not feeling like you don't actually feel support even though you have support. Like that's a flag for me as well. It's something to look at. Anything where you just are getting bogged down in the stuff that you don't love in your business, and like if you just like you have awareness of how much time and energy you're spending there, like that's a huge opportunity for a look at a systems lens in my book, because you started this because you have a gift, because you have an interest, a passion, a gift to serve in a certain way. And while business is going to take a lot of administrative and like technical and financial, like all other pieces, like you have to have that in a business, but also we don't have to have your time and energy doing all of that all the time as you're growing. Like that's probably not your vision of freedom. That's probably not most people here's vision of freedom, right? It's like anytime you're noticing that, like if you looked at your calendar and like most of your time is spent on stuff that you don't enjoy, thrive in, fill it up by, like all those things, like that's an opportunity to look at things and how can I do this differently?
I love hearing that for everyone in the group because we do talk so much about mindset and strategy. And so hearing that, I think it's easy to feel the reactiveness and the emotionality of that and then think, oh my gosh, I'm not like, this is a mindset thing, right? Like I've got to like, how can I just like believe in this more, like positive my way through this? And I think we're seeing it's like, there's no, I don't know, there's no much, like no amount of positivity I can do to like make myself feel great about working through some of the minutia in my like, or just like things that just aren't my zone of genius in my business that are more a systems thing. But I think on the other side too, it's like if you're like, I don't know, for me, if I'm like constantly in the weeds and I know I've been the bottleneck of things, which we've talked about. Like if I'm constantly doing that and frustrated, it's so easy if you don't have the awareness or like someone to help zoom out and be like, actually, maybe this is a systems thing to like make yourself wrong, like you were saying, and to think like, oh, this is a strategy thing. Let me like go fix my offer or go fix my sales, or like I have the wrong business. Like my business should feel different than it does when it's like, I totally have the right business. I totally have the right strategy. My mindset's not even wrong. I just don't have the things in place that are making it easy to run. Does that feel true, reflected back? Because that's comes up on this
I think
side.
that's a really good lens from your experience to put on it. I think this happens a lot of see, especially like issues with clients, whether that's like some pushback or feedback or sales not going right or a billing issue or like a value issue, like anything that's back and forth with clients. We put so much emotion on our client relationships and people pleasing and all of that. A lot of that is actually systems based. And it's not that you're not doing a great job or you're not cut out for this or it's the wrong model or it's the wrong X. It's usually we didn't set up really good systems and expectations in the beginning. And so we didn't build the container to support the way we actually want to work and the way we're going to thrive in this work.
I try not to sidetrack us, but I literally had a conversation this morning with a client and we were talking about how they were stressing out about something hadn't happened in their business. And then they remembered they had a system and an SOP to look at. And it was like, it like removed all the stress and all the emotionality and all the like, oh my gosh, am I screwing things up? And it's like, oh, I just need to do this final step here to send a request to the client to meet the expectation. And it like that literally solved everything. And so just to reflect as an example, it was just so helpful to see. It wasn't strategy. It wasn't I love mindset. I love strategy. Everyone that is still my like zone of genius, but sometimes we have to zoom out and see that's just not the thing. That's the challenge or the pain point at all.
Simple mechanics and like reducing decisions, right? Like, so what I like to talk about that a lot with people is we're, especially creatives, we are attracted to novelty, to having new fun experiences, new problems to solve, all of this. There are places for novelty so you don't get bored in your business. Absolutely. Like working with a new client, solving a new client issue. Cool. You don't need novelty inside your business operations. Like that is not the place.
Tell me more.
If you are having to like figure out every time how this client's going to pay you, how much you should charge, how are we going to onboard them, how are you going to communicate, when are you going to be available, when are you going to have your calls, when are you going to feedback them, like how much feedback do you need? If you're figuring all these things out on the fly every single time, one, that's exhausting. It takes all the fun out of what you're doing. But like that's not the place for novelty. Novelty in how you collect money, how you work with clients, how you communicate, how you work with team, how you manage your calendar. That's not where we want novelty in your business. We want to reduce all those decisions, all of that stress, all that extra mental load so that you can actually put it back to the stuff that is fun.
I'm cracking up over here a little bit because I'm almost like laughing. I'm like, well, there's a mindset part component to this, just in terms of like how much, like, exactly what you're saying, like how much we crave difference and how much we crave creating problems and finding a problem. And I think it's just helpful to see what you're saying here. It's like, if you need to fulfill that craving, your business isn't the place to go do that. Or if it is, it's in like your actual creative work, go doing your content, go do, like do with client work. But we just love as humans, especially I find for clients who are like doing really well. This is like when I'm like coasting in business, I'm sure you have noticed this in me, right? Where it's like, things are fine. It's like, we just then are craving. We think novelty is always like a new offer, but it could be,
drop, or I need something
I need something to fix. Like there must be a problem here. Let me go find something. And it's like, but these are not the places to go like messing and changing things up all the time is what I'm hearing from you.
Yes, and right. Like I do think to our conversation, like mindset and systems are going to go hand in hand. You have to have the right stories and the right belief that things can be easy, that you can spend your time on the stuff in your genius, that you can feel supported, that things can happen predictably and simply, and that your clients are well taken care of every single time. It's all consistent, right? So like it starts with the expectation and belief, but then you have to back it up with the actual mechanics, right?
Yeah. I think we're saying like it has to be both. There's sort of like, we can't just mindset our way to business success. We need the strategy too. It's like, we're saying we need the systems as well. Okay. I have a question. I know we were talking about this before we went live, and I think it's really fitting here. If someone's hearing this and they're hearing that's true and they're getting that and they're noticing they're having resistance come up, like, one, is that normal? And then just like, what do you notice in terms of resistance? Because I think whether it's a mindset issue or a strategy issue or a systems issue, our human brains just love to like balk at the idea of doing the simple things that can make things easier in business.
Yeah, I think one, resistance is like super. Even my engineering systems brain like had a lot of resistance to doing this for myself. It's partly because we have this concept that like structure is limiting and it's the opposite of freedom. And systems are a type of structure, right? So I think it's a matter of, again, flipping that mindset and flipping the belief around what actually creates the space and getting to a place where like, actually, no, this, I can see if I do this and this, then I won't have to do all these things and I'll be stressing less and I'll have the mental energy back, right? We have to kind of envision what it's like on the other side, which can be really hard. I think creatives especially like are really anti-structure and that's the first piece. But getting to a place where you can see how structure, and even if you just talk yourself into just trying it, right? Test drive it, do this, see how you feel. Okay, great. Now you have the evidence, right? I think there's a little element of being willing to try new things. I think newness also is something our brain resists really strongly. So that's kind of like the high level pieces of it. I think the other places I see people kind of resist the setting up systems or structure is a lot of us were brought up in a culture of like achievement and doing all the things and having to do. And like every time you do a thing, you have that endorphin high and hit from like years of conditioning.
Oh my gosh.
So there's this fear that if we have a system, we don't have to do the things, like what's our worth and what's our value attached to in that moment if we're not like every single time figuring it out, right? Like if we attach our value to figuring it out, of course we're going to resist like doing it once and then not doing it again, right? So I think there's a little bit of, again, knowing how you're operating, knowing how you're wired, and like recognizing, is that actually true? And is it actually how I want to continue? And having some of those conversations with a coach is really, really helpful, or with somebody kind of with that external perspective to be a bit more grounding for you can be really, really valuable, because I think there's just so much conditioning that either I'm attaching value to it, or it's going to take too long for me to do this, so I'm just going to do it now. Like we talk ourselves into reasons why we have to keep doing the things the old way, which is the hard way. Because heaven forbid things become easy and then we don't know what to attach our value to, right?
I'm making notes because there's like 18 things I want to touch on. But the first thing I heard that I think is just so helpful for everyone is like, it kind of just starts with the baseline where it's like, you kind of have to get your brain on board with, okay, even if I have resistance, this thing might actually help me. It's sort of like boundaries. I think sometimes we have resistance around, but it's like kind of to set boundaries. We first have to get clear, like, but maybe there's something to this whole boundary setting thing, or like calendaring, like maybe there's something to this. And I think that's kind of the same thing here. Otherwise, we're just fighting ourselves the whole time we're trying to implement. And I think there's probably so many reasons people have resistance, but I think this last piece, particularly for this group, I know for myself, I think there's just so many high achievers and people who are recovering perfectionists. I mean, like like attracts like, right? And I think just what you're speaking to here is, I think there's just such a narrative for us, like you're saying, and just such a, like, I get my worth from doing, I'm good enough, I'm worthy, I'm successful if I can prove I'm working hard, if I proved how hard this was for me to do, I do everything myself. Also, those are all the things that got me here. So why would I hand them over to someone else? And I think there's just such a truth in that, because I see it in myself, I see it through clients, where it's just like so hard to let go and lean into like, wait, but then what does that mean if suddenly things are easy and almost kind of boring because there's no drama that's getting kicked up, or no novelty that's getting kicked up?
Yeah, no new problems to solve, like all of a sudden, all the urgency. Yeah. So the mindset is so intertwined in those things specifically, and how we're approaching it. But I think that's part of the game that we're in the online space, right? If we want something different, we're gonna eventually have to do something different. Like we can't just keep doing more and more and more and more of the same. That is not an equation that works. No.
Well, the two thoughts, and my brain is secretly a little happy that mindset gets to be a little part of this. But the two thoughts that come up for me is just that whole idea you hear so much. I don't know whose quote this is, but what got you here won't get you to where you want to go next. And I think there is that element too, that for so many of us who are high achievers, that old pattern probably served so many of us and got us to the place where you need systems, where you need team, but it's literally the thing that will break you to the next, like going to the next level. And the other piece you were speaking to, just kind of that hard work element. I think it's just noticing how it's so fascinating. This is titled Systems of Freedom. Like we say we want freedom, we say we want ease, but most of us are actually so resistant to ease and like scared the F of ease. And so I think it's just very interesting for everyone to feel like, oh, maybe that's me, just to see like, well, that's super normal. And we often resist the very things we say we want. Yeah. I don't know if that on your side, if that feels true at all.
No, it does. I think even I've had experience with this, because even sharing like, taking a day to go work at like a spa. I'm like, yeah, I'm answering things, managing projects, doing stuff, but the voice in the back of my head is still chiming in with old stories about like, yeah, but you're going to have to make up for this later. You're like all the old stuff is still happening, right? Like, so yeah, we say we want freedom, but your brain doesn't know what freedom looks and feels like yet. And so it feels a little scary, and it needs new definitions again of like worth and value and normalcy and all of safety, right? In the freedom realm, which is just going to take a minute and take some work and support to reinforce that.
1,000%. I won't take us on a whole mindset rabbit hole there, but I like just to bring it full circle, and then we have a comment I'll respond to. But I think what's so nice about systems and what you're sharing here is like all of that is normal, and then systems create some of that safety for us to feel safe enough to have the freedom, because freedom and ease actually does feel sometimes a little jacked up for the nervous system. Julia says achievement and all the things equals so me. Ha ha ha. Yeah. I think I'd be interested to hear everyone watching out on the replay who resonates with that. We can all just raise our hands and be a part of that club, and then see how important systems are and how they really create a foundation to up level into more ease. Okay. I feel like I have lots of questions for you based on what you just shared, but I'm going to try to keep us on track here. So if we're like bringing it back to like, okay, we need systems, we're kind of getting all on board with that. Actually, one quick question that I think this would be helpful for everyone listening is, and I know this is so practical and kind of what we talked about at the beginning, but I just know for the resistance part of the brain, it might be helpful. How specifically, like if I have a system, like how specifically does that help me have freedom and have more creativity? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think the idea of what is a system may be a little bit nebulous. So like I'm looking at a definition that's really just, it's a set of principles, procedures, policies that tell you how something gets done, right? It's organized, a framework, a methodology. It's how things get done predictably and consistently. So it could be a series of tasks, systems, tools, manual and or automated, like doesn't matter. But the whole function of it is that, again, it reduces the novelty. So like literally this happens and this, then this, then this, then this, then this. There's no thinking, no extra decisions, like all of that. So it takes the brain space out of that. But what a lot of systems do also is save you time. One, because there's no questioning, no extra decision making, but also any piece that you can either hand off to support because they have a policy or procedure in place, and or you can automate, or a combination of things. Stuff just gets to happen automatically. And I use the word automatically to refer to
I was just going to say, did you say that on purpose? Because that's my new favorite word.
That's the way I look at it. When things are just happening automatically in your business, whether it's a combination of, again, tools, team, processes, templates, like tomato. There's so many different ways you could design a system, right? Templates, even taking the brain space out of that. It's hard to explain, but it really is about getting the mental space and the time space back, from decision making, from back and forth in communications, from like questioning, from becoming the bottleneck in your business. Like all of that gets eliminated once you've solved if this, then that for a particular piece of action, right? The other thing that if we're running businesses, right? So one of my like 7 areas I look at is financial systems. So are you actually getting paid, and is your team getting paid, right? Like financially, you're going to be better off when these things are also in place. Think about things like missed payments or like bounce cards, or like there's systems and processes for that too, as well as like the front end invoicing or recurring payments, instead of like manually sending invoices and forgetting who owes you what or what month you're on. Like we've all been there. Like consistent money in your account is also an amazing like mental space giver, and like leveling up to abundance, or just like breath of like fresh air, because you didn't have to go and like remember to do all the things. It just shows up, and that's epic, right? That's a whole new level of existence, which starts all sorts of fun stuff. So I think it happens in both areas. Like time and money though, That's what you're getting in various areas. No.
I appreciate you also giving the definition for systems, because that was almost something at the beginning of our conversation I meant to ask and I forgot. And I think it's just so helpful because I know Kim 10 years ago or however long ago would have heard that. And like, that's part of the creative resistance where it's like, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but like my brain just like goes, meh. And I think often it's this like super complicated, like super heavy, super bull thing. And what I hear from you is like, it just makes it so much more simple. And I'm obsessed with Automatically. If you don't have that TM, you need to have that TM.
Okay.
But I think it's like, you really need to, like, I'm obsessed with it. But I think it's just like such a nice connection to see. It's like this really actual simple thing. It's not that it's necessarily rocket science, though I think you need a certain kind of brain and skill set to be able to create it, but it can be super simple, but it gives you that Automatically feeling. And I know on my side, just for everyone listening, like having more systems in place and having you like find those places where I've been the bottleneck or like to clean certain things up where I can't even see, like I didn't even realize there was a spot there, like removing the decision fatigue. It's also like the white space in your brain. Like it's wild how like, yes, like the money coming in practically through the systems. Yes, like the time back because it saves epic amount of time, but like just literally your thought processes and what you're able to do as a result of that in your business it's totally game changing in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's so hard to share the experience for those that aren't there yet to like have the spaciousness, but like that's what we're talking about. Cause I think that's a big piece for a lot of creatives and entrepreneurs is we want to have time, energy, and like just capacity mentally and or otherwise for like real life outside of this amazing machine that we're creating entrepreneurially in the space that serves people. Like life does exist beyond that. And to have, again, anything left over, actually vice versa, like the business should fit around that. But that's part of this equation is like, how do we take just the mental load and the energetic load and the capacity and the time and like the drain out of that so that you have that all freed up. And that's the big piece. And it's yeah, to your point, it's not, a lot of people think systems, oh, it must be like automations and funnels. I'm not talking about all the tech. Like, yes, technology can play a part of it, but like a system can be as simple as like a checklist and a Loom video how to, and then like a trigger that when something happens, a task is assigned that pulls from this like process step and goes to your team. Like that's one simple form of a system, and it saves so much headspace of like, who do I assign this to? Who has capacity? Maybe I'll do it myself. Maybe not. Maybe I can do it Thursday. Oh, but then I have this. Like all that mental stuff is eliminated once the decisions are pre-made.
It's that whole, and not to minimize the tech and the ability because I think that's also really, really super valuable, and you're excellent at that. But I think just so everyone's seeing, like you can even start to create super systems. And it's exactly that when you make the decisions up front and you start to get really clear on those, and things in your business start to feel like a well-oiled machine where it's really boring and you're not getting the novelty from those things in a really positive way. It's this part that you were talking about. It's the mental chatter. Like imagine when you're not like, wait, did I remember to message this person? Wait, who's supposed to do this? Wait, did the Facebook banner go up in my group? Like exactly.
This month, like yeah, all the stuff that you're carrying subconsciously that you don't even realize you're carrying in business, like piece by piece, like getting that out of your brain and into like a document or a process or a system or a thing somewhere. It's not an instant process, right? Like it's not a one and done, like, oh, I'm going to fix my systems today. Like that's not necessarily what we're talking about. Like I've got a tool for you guys that I'll share that's got, 7 different areas, and there's a handful under each of those of like little areas to look at these microsystems in your business to give you more brain space. It's chipping away at it. But I think it's when you start to think about it like this and just give yourself permission to let go of having to redecide every little decision in your business all the time and control all the little pieces. There is another way to operate is kind of what we're trying to share. Maybe Kim can speak to that a little bit because it can be different. It can be different if what we're like miming over here sounds like, well, that's my day to day. Oh, like 1, you're normal. And 2, we can, there's another way. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's one of those things too, where it's like, I don't even know that I knew there was a different way until there was a different way. Like sometimes we just don't know, we don't know. And so I think one of the reasons, and let's make sure at the end, we definitely share your freebie and we'll drop it in the in the comments for everyone, so they can see those different areas. But I think it's sort of like, if we're not even aware of that, I think it's just so easy, especially when we're a smaller business and you don't have a team around you, just to think like, this is super normal for me to have to carry all of this. And then if we add on top of that, and I have defined myself as a high achiever who gets results by working hard, by carrying all of this, I get my like self-worth from working hard. This is my responsibility. Like, I need to have my fingers in all the pots. It's then also that much more difficult to see the forest for the trees. So I think part of this is a PSA for everyone to have that awareness, like there can be a different way. And as someone who, like, I've gone through various iterations of this with team, like the more you allow yourself, because it isn't just all the systems overnight are created, but the more you allow yourself to do that, the more you can allow yourself to remove the control and your fingers from all the pots. There's just literally freedom in every aspect of your business, but also your life and up here, which is, in my opinion, kind of like what changes the whole rest of your life.
Real estate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and also for those of you watching who are like, I don't have a team yet, I'm not big enough for that. Systems don't all require a team. Some of it is just you giving yourself a checklist or giving yourself a tool or setting a new boundary or like setting communication channels ahead of time and like setting boundaries around that. Like even that's a system, right? If onboarding a client is like, cool, I'm available by this. You can reach me through email these days for this response time. I don't respond after this on weekends. Like having that welcome and then like expectations get sent out automatically is like part of a communication system. I'm going to keep saying automatically.
Every time you say that, I'm just going to like, I feel like I just want to like, I wish we had shots. I like want to take a shot every time you say it to like celebrate it. Except for then we'd have a very drunken live stream. I heard someone, it might have been someone on our team. I heard someone once describe it where it's like, and everything can have a system in life. It's like literally how you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There's a system and a process to that if you think about it. And if you can decide that and get clear on that and whatever you're doing repeatedly, like you just take the decision fatigue out of it. And then later when you're ready for a team, you also have something, even if it's the start of a system to give them.
Yeah, I think we do things, even if you feel like you're constantly redeciding and like making these micro decisions, you still have a method. You have your way of making these decisions and deciding what the steps are in any aspect of your business. It's literally just a matter of having the intention. And some of this is skill a little bit to a degree, but like intention to like notice the steps and the thoughts that you're having and like how you're making these decisions and then document them. Like that's literally version 1.0 of a system. Because I do think you mentioned team again. When you're ready to have team support, the biggest headache I see with people trying to build a team is they don't have any systems.
Yeah,
and they're just hoping team will come in and know how to do stuff.
Yep.
And that can be really heartbreaking on both sides and really frustrating.
I literally had a call this morning with someone where it was like a new team issue. And part of the conversation was, well, we don't actually know if this person isn't a fit or not a fit because we didn't have something to give them that was really clear and able for them to follow through. And then it's really, I think, frustrating on both sides because as a team member, you're coming in, you're like, I don't know what to do here and like how to make this person happy. And on the client side, you're like, they suck. They're not like doing the things I want them to do. And it's
no XYZ. Why aren't they doing it? I'm like, well,
they're like, they kind of have no idea. And 5 different people are telling them something different. So this is kind of step one. So do it for yourself first. I think even if you don't have a team, and just know that's only going to serve you later on to get the support.
I think also if you're like, oh, but I don't want to have to take the time to document before I can hire because I'm like at that place, like, cool, but I would be eyes wide open that like your first job coming in is to document a system for how we're going to do this moving forward. Like talk about it, give them like even a casual overview or a Loom video or something. Like that can be a team task to like document what they understood was the process or system. And you can co-collaborate and like create that together. But I think it's not helpful to set everybody up and just expect people to know how to do the job because they're a specialist in social media, or they're a specialist in ads, they're a specialist in this platform, they're a specialist in whatever. Like, cool. And then there's your business and how we do things for you, right? Like,
well, and something you said a little bit earlier in terms of documenting was getting clear on like literally what you said, like what's the way you do this? And I think that's the part for everyone hearing this, because I think we almost think like there's a right way to have a system. And this is so much getting clear on what's your system, what's your process for doing it. And that makes the difference. And I would argue, even if you're not going to ever have a team and you're going to be solo, there are certain things where just like for the decision fatigue you were talking about minimizing, where it's like, if you know, I don't know, when I onboard a client, we do these 3 things. that's just something you don't have to reinvent the wheel around every single time and waste that brain energy, or like, am I doing things right in my business?
I would say, and this is probably something we were going to talk about anyway, but like if there's any areas at all in your business you want to like prioritize building systems, I would say communications.
Yeah,
Like,
you're beating me to this question. So this is great. Yes, because I think we all want to know this. Like, where should we be focused?
financial and communication systems would be the two places to start. And so like communication systems could be like, how do we communicate? What are our boundaries around that? Like what expectations on return time? If you're in a creative services, like how many reviews, like what format, like these sorts of things, like documenting that and like having that as part of the process, right? That you communicate with clients. Simple things like turning notifications off after certain hours, or like having an out of office message, or letting clients know up front that I don't respond on weekends, or like if it's after, 4 o'clock on a Friday, you'll hear back from me by Tuesday. Like part of this is what I consider a communication system, because then clients know, should they email you, phone you, text you, WhatsApp you, all the things. If you don't tell them, it's a free for all, and that's exhausting, right? So like setting those pathways up and like sticking to them, I think is part of it. Communication systems could be simple as like calendar booking, like get a booking, like instead of going back and forth, emailing availability windows and like playing the ping pong game, right? Like a calendar booking link is a system that'll make your life easier. And then some auto reminders, right? So you don't have no shows and that kind of stuff. Like those little pieces are like easy for literally everybody. They're kind of like a minimum in my world. Like we should all do that. And then I think the financial side, right? Because most of your businesses are going to relate to how you communicate with people, and then are you getting paid? Like if we can sort those things out and have less time, energy, money, like thinking, if you don't have to remember when to send invoices, if you don't have to like chase stuff down, if your clients are set up on automatic payments instead of having to then manually go find their cards on the business account and do the thing, like then remember to, or then miss the email and then get reminders, that's annoying, right? So any of those things you can set up in place, then be just sort of set it and forget it, save you so much, just like baseline stress, just baseline headspace. So those are almost always two of the most frustrating areas, and the easiest to solve.
So lots of thoughts, because I love that. I think super helpful, because I know you have 7 areas, which is in the freebie, but I think it's just so helpful for everyone to hear. There's 2 main places we want to look at. And what I'm hearing from you is when we set these up, this is also what creates safety and boundaries on the client side and on the experience side. I think sometimes we like worry if we set a boundary or if we set up a system or a process that clients aren't going to like that. And I just know, because I hear this from my clients all the time when they worry about putting this in place, I just know how often on the client side that actually helps people to feel held. They know what to expect. Sort of like the communication you were explaining, like in terms of having that as a system, and really that's a boundary. And then someone knows, oh, this is how I operate in this container. The same way we were talking about team, the same needs to be true for your clients. And so it's so beautiful, because for everyone here, I know they're super service-based and heart-centered. Setting up your systems lets you support your clients and help them feel safer and help them feel better in your work. And then you link it to the payments, like, and it helps you get paid.
Yeah, but it takes the stress out of them, like remembering, did they pay you, did they not too? So like, I think
Totally.
it helps both sides, right?
Totally.
Like it totally takes the brain power out of like both ends of it. The beautiful thing about like, because part of the communications does involve, yes, communicating boundaries and like expectations with clients, but that absolutely sets them up for success too. Because if then they know you're not available for last minute stuff.
Exactly.
You're not like,
Yeah.
you don't do urgent, you don't do these things. Like it kind of helps them rise to the level of the client you actually want them to be if you've set that up from the beginning. And then everything just runs like smoother for everybody, which I think is a beautiful side effect. And we usually, to your point, we're always afraid, oh, if I'm not like available 24/7, fully responsive, then my value is not X. Like your value is not based on your responsiveness. So that's another mindset piece to circle back to. Systems are how you contain that and like hold that boundary though, right?
Yeah. Well, 2 thoughts. I keep saying 2 thoughts, but you're just giving me all the things. I think with some of what you're saying here, it's just seeing that a system can also help pull the mindset piece forward. I want everyone on this live stream to hear your value is not in your responsiveness, because I think, especially for the high achievers and people pleasers in this group, that's just, I think, can be such a hurdle and such an edge. And sometimes strategy and sometimes systems can be the thing that helps move that forward, is a part of what I'm hearing from you. And I already forgot my other thing. I feel like it was really brilliant.
There's a lot of nuggets in here, depending on where people are at. So
yeah. But I have one last question for you around this that was coming up, and then I'll see if my other thought popped up, because I know it was super genius. with what you're describing, as someone's putting a system into place, because I know we have a group of perfectionists, because I know recovering as well, and I know this is something I've come up around. If you set up a system, is that like then it's locked and loaded and like that's just your system forever? And I know this is like such an obvious question, but I feel like it's actually important to talk about.
Worth asking, because our brains will tell us we must get it perfect and get it right the first time. And of course, the answer is no. Like, your business is always evolving. Your team is evolving. The way you want to do things is always evolving. So like at minimum, like set the basics in place, right? Like you can always improve upon it later or make adjustments later. If you find that like, oh, there's a new thing that's annoying now, or a new thing that I can see myself spending a lot of extra brain power on, let me see if I can actually solve that piece. Yeah, you can always improve upon things. Like many of the businesses I've had a chance to come into had some stuff in place. And I think yours is an example. If you had like some bones of some systems and some processes sorted out, you know, what I could see was there was gaps to make it even better, or where there was a little bit of like some extra decision-making still happening, or a little lack of clarity in terms like, what is the actual expected outcome, or like timeline for these sort of things. Like you can always add clarity and add levels of detail, or add just like ease, or add a new tool, right? A new template, a new something to make the job easier for somebody who's thinking about how to do this every time. So you can always make stuff better, which gives you a little permission to not have it perfect to start.
I appreciate the permission for everyone in the group, and myself included, because I think that's also a fear when you, not that everyone needs to be at a place where they're bringing on team, but I think when you are, I think that fear, we talked about that, where it's almost like everything's working, but I don't want you to see the places we have things duct taped together, and like just that worry about showing a messy back end or something like that. And I think then on the flip side, I think something you're so good at is being able to spot the places where it's like, here's where we can improve that, and kind of the blind spot. We all have blind spots, right? Like that we can't see. And I reflect that for everyone here, where it's like, that's super normal, but I don't like, you kind of have to get a place to start to be able to see where the blind spots are. And we have to like be in the system and process to even notice like, oh, here's where I'm holding too much. Here's where I'm still like touching too many things.
Here's where I can ask, why are you still doing that, Kim?
Right. Which might be your favorite question.
Yeah.
So y'all, like I say that like very transparently, where it's like, this is a growth and like evolution for everyone. Like, and I have like, we have a couple of team members, like there is definitely a reason I should not be doing certain things where I didn't even have the aware, like, I'm sure we've had calls where I'm like, wait, you mean I don't have to do this piece anymore?
Yeah. So I think it's helpful for context. I can't tell you, everybody I've ever spoken to about operations or business system or thing is convinced they're a hot mess. I'm convinced they're the worst hot mess I've ever seen. So I promise, like, everybody's in that boat. It's kind of like, we joked about the analogy, you know how you clean your house before your housekeeper comes over, because we're so like worried about judgment. Like, if your business is never going to improve like systems if you don't let somebody come look at it. You can't find the blind spots without shining a flashlight on some things. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
And like with the clean house analogy, like you clean your house or your apartment, and then like a week or two, like you have to do it again, like dust bunnies collect in the corner. Like we're looking at some stuff that like, I don't know, it's probably fine forever ago. And we're like starting to revamp and relook at some things. It's like, that's also, I think, just the nature of business. It's like, it's a growing, evolving thing we need to keep looking at. So just to normalize for everyone. And I definitely like same thing where I was just like don't look at the dust bunnies in the corner.
Super normal. And I think if anybody's like looking at getting some support on the back end of the business from BA, OBM, somebody like that, just like, it's fine. You're not weird. You're not broken. You're not wrong. You're not anything for not having it all perfect before somebody comes in the door. That's normal. And I think the other thing you talked about is, after a couple of weeks, or after a couple of years, after a couple of months, for those of you who've been in business for a little while, you're probably still doing things the way you were doing them 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. A fresh look at some of that can still find really amazing opportunities to streamline, or to make it even better, or to make it easier, or to just like make it simpler, right? Because a lot of times we get in those patterns and we don't have the mindfulness to like objectively look at them again as to why we're doing things the way we're doing them. I think that's really helpful, where bringing in somebody new to the team, or an outside perspective, or an assessment or audit or something like that. That's part of how I'm wired, is to look at things from kind of that lens. It's the architect brain in me that spins things around 360 degrees and like ask the questions. Why do we do things that way? What if we did this? Do you see that gap over here? Right. So yes, I'm wired that way, but I think there's also just benefit in taking a fresh look at stuff, but you also have to have the mental space to do that. So that's part of what kind of taking the systems approach will do for your business.
I love that. I feel like I want to ask you 8,000 things and I have like more thoughts popping up, but I want to be super respectful of your time. So if someone wants to have your support, if they want to learn more about this, if they want to be like, oh, so maybe systems are a thing, maybe I can like get past my worry about being a hot mess express and like have someone look at the back end of my business. I don't know like what your opportunities are, but I know you mentioned a freebie and would love for you to tell all the people how they can talk to you, except for everyone in this group. I'm also just very covetous. So like, just know that I'm getting to keep you and then let everyone else know the other ways they can connect with you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've got a wait list for the OBM side of things right now, but what I do have for you guys is I've got a free checklist. You can grab it at katrinacobb.com, or we'll drop the link directly to it here and in the comments after the live. It's just my business systems. It's 7 core areas, and I go through like planning systems, client attraction systems, conversion and sales systems, communication systems, assessment systems. How are you looking at your business objectively? Growth and scaling, which includes team, and then profit systems, all the money stuff. So I've got my 7 core areas, and like I think 6 or 7 like microsystems under each of those of places to look. Like, do you have this system? Here's what it looks like when it's complete, just to give you kind of like, oh, I never thought about that. Like Kim says, you don't know what you don't know. And so that's really just a great tool to get you thinking about different areas to look at. And then piece by piece, like take a look at how would you do these things, or how could you take out some of the decision making and document the way you think about it. So that's a tool for you. And then what I do have, about 1 or 2 a month, I've got space for a full-on business systems audit, where I'll actually take a look at your business beforehand and run through a more in-depth audit in those 7 key areas and all the different pieces. And then we'll spend 90 minutes together really looking under the hood at certain things, especially in light of your particular goals, so that we can come out of that with your like top 3 to 5 systems to improve and like kind of how to get started on those. So you've got your roadmap for like where you get the low-hanging fruit, where you get the biggest wins, where the biggest gaps are that are costing you time, money, energy, and like frustration. And I can kind of guide you through that, because that's really the architect brain. That's what I do. It's what I see. And that's something I'm happy to offer you guys as well. So there'll be a link in there on my site and also in the download. You can grab that.
We'll make sure both is in the comments, and just for everyone, like definitely get your hands on the freebie. I think it's just so like exactly what we've been saying. You don't know what you don't know, but also I keep thinking about how like when you move into a new place, like you have a chance, like a new home, you have a chance to like relook at your things and like put them where they want to go. Whenever you've lived somewhere for a while, it's like wherever you put stuff at one point, like it just becomes a part of the fixture and the surrounding. You just kind of get used to it, and you don't even realize like, oh, that's a really weird place to put that piece of furniture. And I feel like having a checklist or something like this, even if you feel like you know all of this, it just like gives you that chance. It's almost like a moving list where it's like fresh eyes, a fresh look. And then we did the audit when we started working together. And so any of you who are like in that place where you're hearing this, you're like, actually could really use that fresh set of eyes, I highly recommend it. I would jump on it. Like highly recommend. Like you're hearing Katrina's the real deal here. But what I find like your brain does so well too is like not just like noticing these things, but the way your brain works. I think you also see it so through like if someone else were going to come into the business, how would they absorb this? Because I know so often on our side as creatives, we're like, oh, but this makes sense to me. Like I think this is making, because I think that's some of the things you were talking about earlier. Like this makes complete sense. And like we all just kind of like know how we're operating, but that is not very useful if someone new is coming in. So just giving everyone just sort of like a couple of reminders here, and definitely jump on that.
Awesome.
Anything else you want to, before we close out, anything else? And not that you like have to, but like anything else that's on the system side that feels important to close on?
No, and I think we talked a lot about it. I think really what it comes down to for me is, again, taking a look at the stuff that is like, I call it crunchy in the business. Like anything that's feeling crunchy, like, yeah, maybe it's mindset, maybe it's strategy, or maybe there is like an actual process or system solve for this that could prevent this same experience it's repeating. So anything repeating, like if you guys are feeling stuff is inconsistent, or you're stuck reacting, right? Or boundaries are getting crossed, or you're just frustrated all the time, or things feel like they take forever, or you like, it's a hot mess, I can't hand this off to anybody, or you have to reduce stuff. Like any of those to me are flags to like look at a system solution, because I think those are all symptoms of just not having the process super clear.
And it's just helpful for everyone to hear closing. It's kind of like the hangry example. Like if you're feeling hangry, if things are feeling crunchy, like stop first and let's just see, do you need food? Is there a systems thing before going to try to solve all the other stuff? Because it's so easy when we're hungry to decide life sucks and to try to solve a bunch of things that aren't actually problems in the business. And I think what you're seeing is like, there's just a, like sharing with everyone, it's just such a beautiful baseline here where it's like, we solve this, then there's probably a lot of other problems that don't really exist in your business, or we can really see them for what they are and address them appropriately. Love it. I appreciate you. For everyone watching on the replay, make sure if you have a question or a comment, feel free to tag either one of us, but definitely tag Katrina if you have any questions so that she knows, because she won't be in the group the same way I am. And thank you all for joining. Katrina, I appreciate you so, so much, and all the ways for doing this, but all the back end ways. And now I have to figure out how to end when we're on Zoom without ending our call. So let me see if I can figure this out. So thank you everyone for joining us. And I figured this out. Bye y'all.